Right, hello everybody. Just waiting a few moments for everyone to join. We already have 40 participants and increasing. So I'm giving 2 extra minutes for people to join us, and then we are kicking off with our webinar. So very welcome you all. And yeah, let's wait this 2 minutes. Talk to you back in a bit. Okay, everybody. So I think we got it. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. This webinar, the main objective is to walk through the whole ROC, Regenerative Organic Cert 5 framework revision process, take a good look on the main changes, the main proposed updates, why the whole revision matters, what is the main goal here we are trying to achieve, and most important, the webinar is a tool for us to encourage all of you to engage and contribute to the consultation process. So to start, I have a little introduction here. So my name is Daniel Araújo. I am the Standards and Quality Assurance Manager here at the Regenerative Organic Alliance. As you may know, the Regenerative Organic Alliance is the scheme owner of the Regenerative Organic Cert 5 program that includes the Regenerative Organic Cert 5 framework. And I'm joined here today by Claire Smith, our Standards and Quality Assurance Coordinator, who will explain to you later on how you can submit your feedback through the framework consultation survey we have created. And well, today we have 3 main objectives. The first, obviously, is to explain the revision, the whole framework revision, how the consultation process will work, what we already did since last year, and what we are aiming to achieve during this year. Number 2, we are going to highlight the main updates proposed in the public draft that is already available for consultation. So there are a lot of minor changes, a lot of edits in the language. So I will be focusing only in the, let's say, major updates that we are proposing to give a sense of what we are trying to achieve with the whole framework revision. And third, we hope we have time to answer your questions. So the questions may be submitted through the chat, as we're saying here. We are trying to keep this very practical, very focused, making sure we have space for engagement, and to make sure we are collecting all the questions and interactions. We would like you to submit your questions to the chat. Claire will be taking note of them, and at the end, we're going to circle back to touch some of them. This webinar has been recorded and will be available very, very soon in our dedicated webpage for the framework revision. The address is here, and you can access through the Regenerative Organic Alliance website. All right, so main question is, why the ROC framework revision is needed. So I'm going to get back a couple of steps so we can discuss a little bit why we are here doing all this huge project for the framework revision. And the ROC framework, the Regenerative Organic Cert 5 framework, is our main standard, is the core of our mission here at the Regenerative Organic Alliance. So our organization was created to organize, to promote, to develop, and to ensure alignment from farms with the Regenerative Organic Cert 5 framework. Since its beginning, this framework defines regenerative organic agriculture and what does it mean in practice across three different certification pillars: soil health, animal welfare, and social fairness. And as the system as a whole grows and evolve, it's critical that we have this framework continuing to be a robust, relevant, and most important, feasible and implementable across different contexts. So a lot of what we're doing here is trying to unfold the framework requirements to ensure that we have proper alignment since the small farms that are just joining the program to big operations that are scaling, that are going deeper and deeper into the regenerative projects. And that's the purpose of this revision, right? Making sure we are keeping up with the whole development of the regenerative organic movement that has been growing a lot the past few years, thanks to the combined effort of our certification bodies, our farmers, brand partners, and all allies we have among the Regenerative Organic Alliance. A little more context on why the revision is needed, right? So since the ROC was launched, the Regenerative Organic Certified program started, around 5 years ago, the landscape of regenerative organic evolved significantly. So now we are seeing stronger regulatory pressure globally, across different countries and regions, and especially around environmental and social claims. And this is coming from governments, but also coming from supply chains. So we need to be aware of that. And at the same time, we have climate impacts becoming more and more visible, more and more urgent. We have, we keep raising awareness around that. And that goes straight to the fact that the markets require more and more resilient agricultural system, and that includes regenerative organic. There's also a rapid market growth. So we have more brands adhering to the program. We have more farmers. We have farmers in different places, different regions with different contexts and backgrounds. And that increases the need of clarity and consistency so we can maintain credibility all across the board. And importantly, we have learned a lot from implementation, right? So we've been hearing feedback from farmers, from certification bodies, from auditors, reviewers, people that are working inside the certification process, also brands. So all this feedback has been essential. And every time we need to go over a particular issue, a particular challenge, we are learning from that, and we're trying to put these on the revision process. So this revision is really about incorporating all of these learning experiences we had in the past, and also, of course, brand new feedback coming from different stakeholders. All of this learning to be put into a stronger system that is better for everyone that is implementing, working, assessing, verifying the compliance against the Regenerative Organic Certified framework. And following here, I'm going to talk a little bit before deep diving into some of the key updates, before going to this more technical part. It's important to highlight that this is a consultation process, right? So this is not the finalized version. We have a draft. It's a working, living document. And this public draft is here to receive feedback from all the stakeholders, everyone that is affected by any change, any update in the Regenerative Organic Certified framework. So some of the updates may be resulting in different requirements at the end. We may add new stuff, we may remove stuff, we may, adapt a lot what we have now in terms of the existing draft. Also receive all the feedback from you guys. So the input we are receiving is a critical part for us to shape the final version of the framework. So nothing is written in stone. We still have this work in progress, right? And talking about stakeholder participation, right? This process, the whole process is designed to be inclusive and transparent. So we are following since the beginning, the standard setting procedure. It's a public procedure we have available in our website. So this procedure ensures that everything that we do pertaining to framework updates, guidance, etc., all of these need to follow specific rules. That includes stakeholder participation all across the board. And we want this input coming from all across the system, all across the stakeholders, as I was saying. So I'm referring here to farmers, the certification bodies, brands that are selling ROC products with ROC claims, non-profit organizations that are related to the standard and its implementation, or are related to consumers, or are related to farmers, right? Or farm workers. You got the picture, right? Researchers, policymakers. So we are making sure to share this draft and the whole framework revision with a big, large audience. So probably all of you received an email a couple of weeks ago from us sharing about this webinar, about the draft. We are going to keep sending updates along the way, and we are going to have more opportunities for engagement later on. But now the main focus is making sure we have the engagement from you in this public consultation. This is key for us to have a meaningful result from the whole framework revision process, right? So the timeline we have here. So catching up a little bit with the timeline, more like a reminder. So we started back in 2025 with a lot of internal discussion, internal talks, and late 2025 during the Q4, we kicked off publicly the process with initial survey. Many of you have joined to gather some early feedback. So we sent an email in the Q4 with a few questions, just like to have this initial reaction from everybody before we move after to build this initial draft. So based on this initial feedback, we built this draft that is not public, and it was released on March 11th. And from now, we have the consultation period that is open until May the 15th. So that's more than 60 days. That's enough time, we believe, for the stakeholders to review and provide input. And following this consultation process we are handling right now, we are going through the revision, the internal revision and approval through the Regenerative Organic Alliance governance bodies, right? So we expect to have the final results of the framework revision by the third quarter this year. So of course, once we launch the final version of the updated framework, we are going to have a reasonable timeline for people to do all the training, learning, adherence process to the new guidelines. So more of that later, but just ensuring that we are going to give enough time for people to adapt. Right. So, okay, we already did a quick recap on the reasoning behind the framework revision, also about the consultation process so far. Now let's talk a little bit about the draft we have for consultation, the document that is already live. So before diving into the specific topics, I want to first have a quick alignment on the overall direction and the intent of the revision. We have some core principles that are guiding us, and I think it's important for everybody to be aware of, because you will note these kind of principles across the different requirements we have updated in the framework. So this slide is maybe the core of my presentation, is really the lens through which you should understand all the changes we are trying to implement in the framework. Here we have three key themes that we are trying to work across the framework revision. First, we are trying to have an even more structured, tiered pathway. What does that mean? We are trying to reinforce the meaning of bronze, silver, and gold, the three certification levels we have in our certification program, to work as a clear progression model. So more precise expectations at each level. In the existing version of the framework, we have a lot of requirements that are just required from bronze to gold without any changes. Some of them may be very challenging. starting at the bronze level, or some of them may not be requiring enough from our farmers in the beginning of their journey. So we're trying to explore more this idea of having a progression from bronze to silver and gold, right? And the idea is to make entry more accessible for new farmers while keeping a strong ambition at higher levels. So that's what we mean by having this tiered pathway and exploring more this continuous improvement approach, right? Number two, we have the continuous improvement through these time-bound plans. So this is a new idea we are introducing in several requirements across the framework. So you might see this requirement of having a plan instead of just compliant. We need to have some demonstration of compliance with more clear information. So these in these new requirements, we have much stronger emphasis on the system plan. We used to have just the regenerative organic system plan, the ROSP, with some KPIs and some additional documents. But now we are asking for more clear plans to have measurable time-bound targets for some criteria. And this is kind of a shifting the focus from like static compliance, yes or no question, right? Yes or no answer, to ongoing progress, ongoing monitoring, and demonstrating outcomes over time. So the framework is still a practice-based standard. It's not that we're just measuring outcomes, outputs. That's not the idea. But we need to keep building this spirit of have some outcome-based reporting, some outcome-based planning, so we can communicate better our impact. So this is something that appeared a lot during the initial survey, and we already ran across these in the past as well. So we're trying to add a little bit more of record keeping and metrics through these time-bound plans, right? And finally, the alignment with best practices in voluntary sustainability standards. So we are adding some language, we are adding some definitions, integrating concepts like management system, risk-based approach, outcome-oriented requirement, as I just explained. And the idea is to improve auditability and consistency across the system, to better communicate, to better align with other certification schemes, other voluntary sustainability standards. So overall, this is not about changing what the ROC framework stands for. So the spirit, the principles, the requirement in general, they are pretty much the same. It's more about making it more operational, more scalable, and more credible at a global level. So we can communicate, our brands, our farmers can communicate better the impact they're making by adhering to all the regenerative practices and all the requirements we have in our framework. So in the next slides here, I'll try to translate these concepts, these themes, to some concrete updates we are proposing, right? So kicking off with soil health. One of the most important updates we have here is around the regenerative organic system plan. This is connected directly with what I just said about having plans, having a tiered approach, right? So we have strengthened the ROSP to include some additional elements like biodiversity, planning for improving biodiversity, for considering indigenous land rights, and also requiring monitoring processes with annual review of the interventions that are made. So this is at the same time connected with the idea of having this measurable metrics year after year, and adding more I would say state of art, basic best practice language like indigenous people and rights, biodiversity. We are going to talk about high conservation value areas later on. So these are all concepts that are present in the industry, in the certification, sustainable certifications, and we're bringing this to the ROC so our farmers, our brands can communicate this impact as well. So here we can see we have between ROC silver and gold, we have we're stepping up and asking a little bit more At the silver level, we have a plan that needs to include specific goals for each aspect of the ROSP. And at the gold level, the scope expands beyond the farm to the surrounding ecosystem. So this is very aligned with a lot of what we can see in the recent developments in the industry. And the objective here is to operationalize the continuous improvement, making it moving from intention to more measurable, trackable progress. So that's an example. We have this in other criterias, but I selected this one to discuss a little bit about this. Uh, Moving ahead, talking about water management, we received a lot of feedback from you that we were lacking more language, more specifics around water. So we're introducing more structured water health management approach, and operations will be, required to have a plan that is regularly reviewed, regularly updated, including how people are monitoring water quality, water usage, as applicable, of course, and there's also clear expectation around conservation strategies, right? And how we're going to track different water sources. For some producers, that is just not applicable. People are not using irrigation, for example, but for other systems, this is extremely relevant. So we need to make sure we're collecting information and addressing the water usage. The objective here is to have more strong evidence base around the water stewardship, if you name it, and to demonstrate real impact on this requirement. So yeah, going forward here, another one that I selected, and again, we are connecting here the idea of bringing new concepts to the framework. Deforestation in high conservation value areas. This update introduces clearer requirements around this HCV, high conservation value. This is something that many of you probably already are aware of. Many of you are already working on these in other projects, and we are asking operations to identify and do an assessment of these areas considering biodiversity, environmental, and social importance. So we have clear parameters for that, and at the gold level, there's now this expectation that we have measurable restoration activities, again, as applicable, right? Whenever we have the chance to restore, to have forests, have natural habitats being restored, we are going after it. And this reinforces the ROC roles, not just in avoiding harm to the ecosystem, avoiding harm to natural habitats, but actively contributing to ecosystem restoration. This is something that we also receive some feedback asking for more clarity around that. So this is a way we're trying to achieve these. So next thing here, Steven soil health. We have rotational grazing criteria 2.4. So for the rotational grazing, this is also connected to the feedback and learnings from the past. The focus is to have stronger planning and control to understand and to capture different types of rotational grazing systems. So we now are asking for plans that need to be developed by qualified people around rotational grazing and clear expectations when contractors are involved, right? We noticed that we were not addressing effectively when contractors were joining the operation, bringing the rotational grazing. And there's also more emphasis on monitoring these grazing practices, avoiding risks like contamination and ecosystem degradation, something that we noticed in the past and we need to avoid. And as a whole, this improves both consistency and auditability, having more parameters to do this assessment around rotational grazing. To close here with soil health, I have a last one, but very, very important. That will be the 6.3 computer models and monitoring. You can see that we have this underline for monitoring, right? That means that we are adding this word. Previously, this criteria was only referring to computer models. We were trying to expand this, making it required not only for gold, as was in the past, but now also for bronze and silver levels. And this is a key step for us to have more, outcomes being measured during the certification process as a whole, so we can have more metrics, more numbers, more impact to communicate. So thinking about that, we're introducing requirements that for the use of digital tools, we're already asking for computer models, right? But the idea is to ensure that we are estimating greenhouse gas emission and soil carbon trends in the farms at the farm level. The expectations are scaling per certification level. So we're starting pretty simple at the bronze level with a basic estimation at bronze level, very simple system. Then moving forward for more robust data-driven approaches at the gold level with clear modeling tools. So the objective is to have a better, to better quantify and better verify climate impact. This is increasingly important for brands, for policymakers, for markets, for farmers, of course. So we are already doing a very good job at the farm level, right, with our regenerative practice, but we need to better capture this impact. We need to translate these into clear, verifiable, accessible, metrics and practices. So that's the idea of expanding, improving these requirements around carbon monitoring computer models. All right, so now switching gears a little bit, coming from soil health to animal welfare. So this pillar, we also have some important updates we are proposing. First, we have an update on the CAFO and long-term confinement. Again, here you can see an underline for long-term confinement. We are adding this term in the name of the requirement. This update is focusing on clarifying and making stronger the prohibition of long-term confinement of animals. So we know that's a huge challenge, and we have different contexts for how farmers handle the free pasture, right? The confinement. So we have introduced a more clear language around what means confinement. Specifically, we are setting this 45-day limit within a year, within a 12-month period, where animals cannot be kept in conditions without sustained vegetation or pasture access. And at the same time, we are recognizing some practical realities. So some exceptions are allowed in cases like extreme weather events, as long as they're properly documented. So key objectives have clarity and understand that sometimes we need to keep animals indoor. That's something that is within the reality of regenerative organic farmers and ranchers. But we need to have more control around these events, right? Have more clarity, have more ways to enforce compliance against these criteria, and remove any ambiguity and ensure consistent interpretation across operations and across certification bodies. So we're bringing more definition around this CAFO and long-term confinement. Still prohibited, we're just giving more clarity. Now talking about confinement. For some reason, I believe let me try again. I believe my presentation, I cannot share my screen anymore. Okay, right. Let me try again. All right, so going faster here to where we were. Oh, that's odd. Why we are jumping the next slide here. Let me try starting from this point. Sorry for this, guys. For some reason, the presentation is like finishing. Let me try something different.
I'll also try sharing my screen.
Yeah,
If
for
that's
some reason the
helpful.
presentation is stopping at slide 16. Maybe you can see if you're having different results, Claire, but I'm trying, some Witcher here. Yeah, it worked at my side. Let me get
Okay.
back to, yeah, thanks for for the help. Let me just get back to the share screen. All right. So I trust you guys can see back my screen, right? So again, we just talked about CAFO. Let's talk about confinement. So sorry for the little stop here, the little pause. But getting back to animal welfare, let's talk about confinement. We have new language that was added. This update is focusing on clarifying and making stronger prohibition um, of you know the temporary confinement. These are the rules that I was speaking before. So we are allowing animals to stay indoors in some events. We have a list here. So inclement or extreme weather events, environmental or soil protection concerns, animal health or biosecurity needs. We heard a lot about that last year. So a lot of our farmers were impacted by biosecurity needs, diseases, right? And finally, we have some short-term management activities, like breeding, like weaning, veterinary management. So the objective here, the goal, is to provide more clarity on how to handle and how to document this temporary confinement. That was the idea behind uh, that update. And let's move forward for the disposition of culled animals, right? So this is a new requirement we are adding here. So this is specific for dairies. This is a new section, so a very important one, specific for dairy systems. We are introducing this tiered approach for how dairy bull calves are managed after leaving the ROC operation. This is a challenge we have been hearing from our farmers. And we have, again, three different levels. We're exploring them. So at the bronze level, we are adding this requirement for a continued pasture access once they're sold, right? For silver level, animals must be raised to maturity under appropriate conditions. And finally, at gold level, the expectation is either having on-farm raising or transferring to another ROC certified operation. And this change reflects like a broader shift towards this life cycle responsibility for the animals, aligning with the stakeholder expectations around the animal welfare. So in the past, we were just prohibiting selling the animals to auctions, right? They still cannot, but we're giving more like a more reasonable approach per each certification level. So the idea is to make it simple for farmers to comply, for their farmers to comply, and making sure we are evolving across silver and gold. Once again, exploring this certification level approach, right? Okay, so now I'm aware of time, so let's move to social fairness, and starting with a brand new uh, requirement, remediation policy. So again, we have the introduction of a new concept. This update brings a new formal requirement for remediation policies. This is something that was not mentioned before in the framework, and we are lacking a clear definition of remediation policy and how that would be implemented in their operations. So now operations would need to have documented procedures to address the serious issues such as child labor, forced labor, human trafficking, etc. And very important, this is not just about identifying the problems, right, and having clear rules against it, but it's about how they are addressed, right? So this requirement is emphasizing the corrective actions that must not create, for example, additional harm for workers, must be following proper procedures, respecting all the principles for the social fairness requirement, but also confidential steps, no harm along the remediation procedure. And the idea here, the objective is to align the ROC framework more closely with international best practices in social standards, where the remediation is a core component for social responsible systems, right? So we were lacking this, and now we're adding this new policy requirement. Now, also about contractors, right? This is a good one. So we have new language added. This update aims to bring a clarification for social fairness requirements and how they apply um, to all workers, right? Regardless how they are hired, if they're full-time workers, permanent, part-time, contractors, and this includes workers employed through contractors, recruiters, FLC, subcontractors. For any case, operations are responsible for ensuring that these workers have the same protections, including access to grievance mechanisms, freedom from forced labor, or unfair deductions from the payroll. And the objective is to close this gap that we noted in many systems where contracted labor falls outside the scope of enforcement. We already have these in our language, but we are making these more explicit, right? Making explicit that the responsibility remains with the certified operation. Again, we still have a lot of discussion going on around contractors and about other social fairness criteria. So we much appreciate all the feedback you can give. I know we have a lot of thought, a lot of strong experience coming from our certification bodies, auditors, and farm operations around contractors. So your feedback here is very, very welcome, right? Okay, and moving forward here on social fairness, this is another big one, commitment to a living wage. So we have new language already added, and we're expecting to add more once we receive feedback, complete, comprehensive feedback from all of you. So the update we have now aims to make stronger the approach to living wages by focusing um, in outcomes, right? In more clear outcomes. So operations are now required to demonstrate verifiable positive social outcomes. That's how we're calling that can include progress toward living wages, not only about the economic side, but also freedom of association or other meaningful social benefits that are being added, being available to the to the farm workers. So the shift here again is from purely requirement-based compliance to more evidence of impact, right? We are moving in that direction here again. So this aligned with this broader direction of the revision, moving toward a more evidence of impact systems. We're not only asking if the requirements are met, but what is the real effect on people? What is the real effect on communities? So once again, calling the attention of all of you, we still have ongoing committees and people discussing living wage, specifically for some regions in the United States. So we are hoping to have more feedback coming from you, structured feedback with clear notes, suggestions, and experience you may have, so we can incorporate even more effective, feasible, applicable new language, making sure we are moving towards a living wage, but ensuring also that we have clear entry points, clear, steps through the journey until we reach the living wage, of course, at the gold level, right? So we need to start thinking this since the very beginning at the bronze level, but ensuring that we have clear steps, clear metrics, and reasonable, feasible steps until the ROC gold level. Good. So, with this slide, I'm kind of closing this very brief exposition about the key topics that I would like to call the attention, exactly to illustrate what we were talking in the beginning, the spirit behind the revision process, right? And of course, we have much more to talk, and we'd love to go deeper in each one of these requirements and many others that I'm not naming here, but we have changes in the draft. We have prepared a summary of changes. Many of you have asked. So we have prepared this document. We are going to make it public with the recording of this webinar, highlighting exactly what we are changing, what we are adding, new words, new definitions, everything pertaining to the revision process will be summarized so you can easily compare, easily identify what is changing, what is not, right? And well, I think I said enough already from my side, so I'd like to move to Claire and invite her to join us here and explain a little bit more on how you need to submit your feedback. So we have created some structure, some tool for that. And yeah, it's with you, Claire, please.
Yep. All right. I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to do a quick kind of walkthrough of what the feedback survey looks like. Okay. Can you see my screen? I think so. Okay. So it's on the framework revision page. You just scroll to the bottom and then click stakeholder feedback form. And I already have one kind of partially filled out here just to quickly walk through it. So the beginning part just kind of reiterates the purpose of this stakeholder feedback form is just to collect feedback on the revision draft. So I guess the most important thing is that one, all feedback should be submitted by May 15th. And then two, if you have multiple pieces of feedback, like for different criteria, that you need to submit a new form for each piece of criteria. So I'm just going to walk through this real quick. So you just type in your name, organization, email address, and then just whatever category you fall under. Country, a lot of these are just drop downs. If you're responding as an individual or just on behalf of your whole organization. And then anything that doesn't apply, you just type NA. So here's where it comes to like specific criteria. So say you had feedback on the soil health pillar, you would select that. And then the next question, it kind of goes into, dives a little bit deeper, and you would select whatever criteria that you want to comment on. So say it's minimum soil disturbance. And click next. Then you kind of reiterate just the type of feedback you want to provide, whether it's a typo, maybe you have a technical correction, things like that. So just select whichever one makes the most sense. And then in here, again, it has to, whatever feedback you're providing needs to align with the criteria that you selected on the previous page. So you just type in a summary of the criteria here, whatever your feedback is, the change you would recommend, and then the reason for that change. So, and then the last page is just, would you be willing to discuss this feedback? So basically, can we contact you with questions or clarification on your feedback? And then would you like this feedback to be used to inform the revision of the ROC framework? I would assume most answers would be yes, but if not, no. And then you would click submit. And then again, if you had an additional piece of criteria to submit, you would go back and re-enter all that information and then just select the different criteria that you have feedback on. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, so I believe I'm getting back to the screen share. Thank you, Claire. So very important for us to have this for you guys to use this survey you have created so we can receive structured feedback. Make sure we're collecting all the feedback from you, of course. And most important, having organized information, right, according to the requirements, according to the pillars, ensuring we have an understanding of the stakeholders that are joining us, and that will be a way to give answers to you all once the process is finished. Right, and I would like to move very, very quick to the questions. We have some very good questions here. Let me try getting back to the question screen. So,
I've been
yeah.
trying to answer some of them as we go through, so.
Oh, that's great. So,
Mhm.
let me start here with some questions. I'm going to read out loud and try to brief comment as we move forward. So, are there plans to have Spanish or Portuguese versions of the framework? We would love for our teams in South America to be part of this process. Yes, there are plans to have it at least in Spanish and probably in Portuguese. An important part of this answer is that we are doing the framework revision, focusing here in the requirements in the way we are implementing the requirements, right? But then once the revision is finished, we are having other outcomes. We are having other documents that are going to be created, other tools, etc. So definitely we're going to have, for example, new checklists for auditors, new ROSP for farmers to fill, new ways to communicate parameters, metrics, as we were saying. So we're going to come up with more additional docs later on. And part of this is the translation of the framework, and not only the translation of the framework, but also of other tools that we have. For example, the application form. I know that's a big challenge for people speaking Spanish, right? So some farmers, they just don't want to fill out a big form in English, right? So we now uh, within the ROA, we have a structure to deal with information not only in English, but also to respond, to address questions and steps of the certification process in different languages. That includes Spanish and maybe Portuguese, but of course we're focusing in Spanish here. But yes, long story short, we are planning to have this translation once we have the final version of the framework revision, including other documents as well. And yeah, that's also important for me, speaking from Brazil, right? So a lot of people ask for these docs coming in Portuguese, right? So I can see that we already have some answers from where the draft and the documents are located. We have the website, regionorganic.org, and we have a page, ROC Framework Revision, where we're concentrating all the information. We are going to put this recording there as well. And we are going to send an email to all of you once we have the recording online, once we have anything new in this website, so you can take a look and have this common source of truth, right? Cool. Moving ahead here. So, okay, let me try to pick the ones from the very beginning, the drafts located. Okay, regarding water reduction and conservation, does that mean that the grower is supposed to show water reduction regardless of how much water they use at baseline? That's a very good question. Not really. So the idea of having a water reduction and conservation plan is to exactly do this assessment. So for example, let's think about the farmer that has irrigation, right? So collects used water for the irrigation. So the first step would be doing an assessment on the whole system to understand how much water they're bringing, right? How they're using it, if they're storaging, if they are getting effluents from the system, how these effluents are being treated. So do a huge understanding of everything, and after this, verifying where we can have improvements. Sometimes this is just not applicable. Sometimes we already have excellent conditions. Maybe we already have a minimal use of water. That's maybe possible. But from my experience, since the beginning working as an auditor for many standards, etc., there's also room for improvement. And the idea is to identify these and move towards better implementation, better practices for water uses. So that may be little, maybe more, that depends. This is something that will be verified during each audit year after year. So we need to see some progress. And if this is just not applicable, that's just fine. But we need to have this confirmation through the on-site audit. The next one here, can you all speak to whether there are revisions to terms and definitions? The revision doc just says, let me expand here a bit, that the glossary of key terms, please refer to the terms and definition main document. Is there supposed to be a separated document of revised definitions, or were no revisions made to this? Also, another good question. So yes, we have already a comment here. So yeah, Claire already mentioned we have a separated document. It's not yet in the website, but will be very, very soon. And these terms and definition documents is pretty much an addition of this new language I was mentioning through the presentation, plus refining, improving the definitions we already have. So we are putting everything at one document. We used to have a glossary of terms in the framework, another glossary of terms in other program documents. We are putting it all together, and that's why it took a little longer for us to finish that, but we are going to make it public and make sure we have time to collect your feedback on this as well. And moving ahead here, we have more questions arriving. If just clarifying, if I'm not able to go over all the questions, we are going to make sure we are answering separately each questions, all the questions received. So regarding remediation around child labor and others, if the operation has never had any identified cases, does that still apply? Kind of, yeah, it still applies because you don't need to have a remediation you know, if you have not remediate anything because it never happened, a case, right, a harassment, for example, an abuse, that's perfectly fine. But you still need to have a remediation procedure policy, right? So you need to have a structure to address these cases, and that's the remediation policy. And when we say policy, and that's a very important point, we are not just saying that child labor is prohibited. No, we need to understand how to identify child labor, how to address that, how to take measures to avoid this to happen again in the future, have records of this, making sure we are tracking all the steps of the remediation process. Also important, and you can see this in the draft, some requirements are not applicable to smallholders. So we're not talking about these small farmer that just have an occasional employee, right? An occasional farm worker. We are putting some of the requirements being applicable only for larger operations as it already works in the existing version of the framework, but we are keeping that approach for this new remediation requirement that we recently added. Good. So we received a lot of new ones. That's very nice of you guys. So yeah. So we have very yeah, we have a question that it's like 3 in 1. Let me try to answer this to make sure I'm hearing a little bit each one of you guys. So soil health 6.3 computer models will be necessary for bronze level 2. If the production is group farm, small farm, how they can manage, what would be the procedure? Yes, we are going to ask for assessments on the farm level since the very beginning. But again, the idea is to make sure we are giving very accessible, easy to use systems for farmers, right? In this case, you were mentioning specifically a group farm, a small farm. I believe you're talking about rural groups, right? So a group of 100, 200 farmers that is organized all together under internal control system. So we're expecting in this case that the internal control system, this structure is providing guidance around the carbon emissions, right? And the carbon trends in soil. And again, the idea is just to have an initial discussion of this topic at the bronze level, right? Just like touch on this. And from silver to gold, we are actually having more stronger systems where we're quantifying the quantities. that's a little, yeah. We are having the quantities very clear, and later on we are trending, modeling the trends for the future, right? So again, we are still building on this, still hearing a lot of feedback, very interesting feedback on this. And this specific update is to answer a lot of comments we had in the past for this gap that we already have. We're doing an excellent work at the farm level, but we're not being able to maybe translate the best these uh, further on the supply chain, right? So the idea is to make sure we're collecting this since the beginning and moving forward, improving in the silver and gold level. Another one here, social fairness remediation policy. Yeah, that's I just answered that. It's necessary. Yes, if you don't have any case, if you are like a larger operation, you will still need a remediation policy. Another one for social fairness. In many areas or countries, many NGOs, or we can say many organizations, are implementing ROC or any standard in the field in the production unit. So the social criteria should also include the staff implementing the standards, like a field trainer can be worker for organizations. So I think there should be policies for staff to encourage them. Okay, I feel like yeah. Right. So these staff working from an NGO, maybe supporting people, farmers, small growers to implement their OC standard as they do, as you said, for other standards, right? This is pretty common. I have seen this a lot as well. That's a very interesting feedback, Siad. So we are not touching this exactly that way, but that's a very interesting reflection. In this case, I don't have quite an answer so far, so I would prefer to receive more information on this. You're very welcome to submit your feedback on that topic so we can see how we can interact and verify, check on these NGO, or related workers that are interacting directly with the farmers. But at this point, they're not in the scope of the certification or the verification, but yeah, they may affect the whole implementation. So maybe interesting to go after them as well. All right, guys, I'm very aware of time. I know we just have 1 minute, and I know we have, I believe, 6 questions unanswered here. So we are going to have the records of these. We have your names, so we're going to follow up separately, and we're going to make a summary of these questions. Put on the, I'm not sure if we can put on the transcript of these, but we are going to put these on like a summary of the webinar, and we're going to make it public as well to make sure we are answering all of your questions here. So with that, I would like to say a big thank you to all of you who have joined us today, right? It was a pleasure to talk more about the framework revision. That's a very, very important project for the Regenerative Organic Alliance. We're deeply involved into this. And as I said in the beginning, participation of the stakeholders is key. So we need to hear from you. We have a survey tool. We are going to have more opportunities for engagement, for interaction, and with different stakeholders categories. But at this point, this webinar has this main idea to share the consultation tools, to share the resource, the information source, and make sure everybody is on the same page here. So, well, thank you a lot for joining us. As I said, we are going to have this recording and all the material associated with this webinar available in our website later on. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening for all of you, and I guess I'll see you later. Goodbye.